his name is Angus. And Angus has a very special story to share. And I didn't catch that? It is a very Scottish name. Angus. And his talk is called Asperger's Road to Magic. So if you'd like to give him a warm welcome.
Ladies and gentlemen. My parents would have gladly waved a magic wand, if they could, to make my journey so much easier. But I've long since realised that life is a puzzle, and perhaps we're not all meant to solve it in one go, but piece by piece. You see, I have Asperger's syndrome, and this is my story. I arrived into this world very angry and fed up after a long battle to come out. Early years were spent in Hong Kong, where it was humid, sticky, and we were tented up in an apartment. And my mum could not wait to get us out of there. I had lots of chest infections, tons of antibiotics, and a good dose of colic. And with my dad travelling all the time, and me trying to climb over my cot, which then graduated as me climbing the balcony, it was fair to say no one was keen for us to go somewhere else. I wasn't a happy chap as a child, and I very rarely smiled. And my party trick was to yell and scream until I went limp through fainting. A blow of air or a splash of water on my face brought me back, but it wasn't meant to be like this in the textbooks. Whether it was bathing, meal times, or in the middle of the night, I did give my family a rough ride. We moved to Cape Town, South Africa when I was nearly 4, and life was better there for all of us because we had more space, we had the sun, the beach, the sea, and my mum had some help. And I started to really love animals, and I used to play with them all the time in my room, which kept me busy and calmed me down. I always used to lie them all across the floor of my bedroom, which was fine until my room needed to be clean. But I realised afterwards that loads of kids similar to me did this. Therefore, was it my Asperger's, or was it just the practice carried out by kids? Whatever it was, it helped me. School was a real challenge, and I went to a total of 15 different ones, as my parents were always trying to find the right school for me. And in some cases, the school decided I wasn't right for them either. The teachers just didn't get me. Throughout my life at school, I have suffered from horrendous bullying. I was punished by the teachers, and at times had to leave class to help me relax. If the teacher yelled at me, I would sometimes laugh, which would be a nervous reaction, and then I got punished for it. If I didn't conform to how the teachers wanted all the other students to act exactly, I was punished. I had one teacher called Miss Mare, who my parents loved to call Nightmare. It was a tough time, and I was now showing all the signs of severe ADHD, and my parents knew I was probably on the autistic spectrum as well. But the problem was, in South Africa, it's very hard to be formally diagnosed. And this led to all the people at school thinking, half the time, that I was just odd, wondering what on earth was wrong with me. And as a result of this, I had no friends, and as mentioned earlier, I did get bullied a fair bit. The best part about it, though, is that I can stand on stage tonight and inspire others with my story, and explain that the road through school for Aspies, because our brains are wired differently to neurotypicals, can be incredibly tough. But trust me, once you've made it through, you have the potential and ability to achieve so much success. And I've got to admit, I never thought I'd be where I am now when I look back at challenges I faced in previous years. I did have ways of releasing stress and anger, which included things like throwing stones and smashing glass. These weren't, however, the best ways of dealing with it, as it did end in disaster half the time, whether it was my uncle's glass panes for his new greenhouse, or our neighbour's back window. No glass was spared. To this day, though, throwing allows me to release tensions and nerves, but fortunately for my parents' bank balance, I tend nowadays to go for a run, which calms me down a fair bit and works out much cheaper for everybody. So up until I was 15, I lived in South Africa, and I had an amazing childhood in South Africa in many ways. you know, I had the sun, the beach, the sea, the freedom, the amazing places we visited, and the things we did, such as snorkeling with dolphins, diving with great white sharks, and the amazing wildlife we saw. But in many other ways, it was very hard for me and my parents, because none of the schools geared up to help me, and there was no family support. My mum and dad did make some good friends who would not be so good after they spent some time with me. And it was easy for them to just drop my mum and dad and move on to some family whose kids were much easier to deal with. It was a world of one struggle after another, and I still to this day struggle with taking things literally and can sometimes come out with the wrong things to the wrong people. For example, a number of years ago, I learned the word bastard from listening to it from other kids, who of course knew not to say it in front of adults. But I came out with it in front of my mum once, and she explained to me the other meaning of it, hoping that I wouldn't go and say it again. But this backfired, because shortly afterwards, I met a work colleague of my dad's, Ed from Malaysia, who came to stay. And he was talking about him and his son Archie, who was 4, and that him and his girlfriend were planning on getting married later on in the year. And then I came straight out with the question, does that mean Archie's a bastard? Ed fortunately saw the funny side of it, and still talks about it to this day. This difficulty in understanding what people sometimes actually meant would cause a lot of problems at school, when I would find interpreting the difference between bullying and banter very hard indeed. This meant that I was teased mercilessly, and as a result, I struggled with all forms of social interaction. At primary school in grade 1 to 3, I always used to sit on my own every lunchtime because I had no friends. And when we left South Africa in 2011, I'm sad to say that I did not leave behind a single friend. Since being back in England though, this side of things has got better, but has still been a struggle. Going to breeding school in 2013 has now for the first time given me an opportunity to make some real friends. And I love the fact that I've walked away from Breeden for the first time in my entire life with 3 or 4 really close friends who really were friends this time, and I'm able to keep in touch with, as opposed to just having a load of friends on Facebook who aren't really friends at all, if I'm honest. I've now just started a BTEC Animal Management Diploma course at Solihull College, and have a work placement at the Guide Dogs and Dogs for the Disabled. My goal in the future is to work with dogs and train them to assist people if they're blind or physically and mentally disabled. And the idea of training dogs to assist people with autism and Asperger's, I really like the idea as well. Because when adults and kids on the autistic spectrum lose their temper, it can be a very scary place for anyone nearby. And I want to help train dogs to go to these people when all around them is falling apart, as I can verify after having my own dog that they can keep the peace much better than any teacher or parent. My other passion, however, is magic. And my dad used to go on at me all the time until 2 years ago, when he'd seen me spending all my spare time on video games, and he'd tell me to do something much more worthwhile, such as read a book. They used to say that my passion was definitely inside of me somewhere, but it was just a case of finding it. So for my 18th birthday, January 2014, they enrolled me on a 3-day magic course at Davenport's Magic in London. And I can honestly say that has changed my life. Because in my spare time now, I'm always practicing my magic. And I've joined the Coventry and Leamington magic circles, and have started working at pubs in the evening and earning some money. I've also performed at weddings, christenings, private parties, and has found a skill that's given me an immediate way into conversations, done wonders for my self-esteem and confidence, and it has changed my life for the better. Because seeing that I can now walk into a pub and start engaging with total strangers, that is what I call magic. Before I end though, I would like to share with you what I know other than just Asperger's syndrome and ADHD. So I've met a lot of people I've also got loads of friends and a family member too who are struggling with dyslexia. But as I said earlier, people with learning difficulties can find the journey through school and life incredibly tough. But once you've made it through, you have the potential and ability to achieve so much success, and there are big opportunities there for you. It may be hard to believe, but with these learning difficulties such as dyslexia, you're just using the creative parts of your brain, and it's actually a gift itself. And whatever you want to achieve, it's not going to stop you. Everyone is entitled to their own ambitions, and if you work hard and keep at it, you can achieve it no matter what. I do admit, though, that this is not easy, but all you have to do is believe in yourself, try your best, and remember, never, ever give up. I'm now going to give some examples of some people with learning difficulties. Olympic rower Stephen Redgrave, artist Pablo Picasso, Richard Branson, Jamie Oliver, and author Roald Dahl. It is suggested that they were dyslexic. And singer Susan Boyle, footballer Lionel Messi, and Bill Gates, it is suggested that they have Asperger's syndrome. And actor Jim Carrey and Olympic swimmer Michael Phelps have ADHD. And look at them now. Anyway, as well as sharing my story here on stage tonight, I'm also here tonight to ask you all to please take my word of advice for granted. There is no such word as impossible. Anyway, without any further ado, I'm going to perform some magic for you right now. I'll go like this and start coming on. Hey! Link together. I've got 3 different pieces of rope. A small piece, a medium piece, and a long piece. And I'm going to try and make them all the same length. Okay. Start by doing it the easy way. There you go. Yeah, you're going to get the middle, aren't you? I want to now get them back to their original length.